This morning, we're going to explore what it means to be self-employed in every aspect of your life. So we're not just talking about your job, although that is one part of it. We're going to be talking about how entrepreneurship is truly a way of living and not just a way to make a living. Welcome to the show, Go Back to Bed, where we wake up way too early to discuss what really matters in life and business, and why the home should be at the center of your solar system. I'm going to bring you into a world where entrepreneurship is a way of living, not just a way to make a living. In our conversations, you will get practical advice to help you start your day with clear priorities and confidence to pursue your goals. Most importantly, you will learn how to find your voice, meaning you know what you believe, you know what you want, you know what you stand for, and you become the writer and director of your personal and professional life. Today's quote is, "Think for yourself, or others will think for you without thinking of you." Henry David Thoreau. So, that's an important quote to kind of set the stage for today's conversation as we define what it means to be self-employed. A lot of it's going to come back to what it means to think for yourself, to have a mind of your own. Progress in this world has only been made because individuals have been willing to think contrary to the majority opinion or the popular belief of the time. That's the only reason why we know today that the world is round and not flat. That's why we were able to land on the moon. That's why every modern invention came to be, because somebody was willing to think beyond the crowd, and they were willing to be rejected by society for it. Anytime you find yourself agreeing with the majority on something, you must take time to make sure that you are thinking for yourself and not just going along with the crowd, because it is very natural to do that because we want to feel accepted. We have a internal survival instinct that makes us want to fit in so that we can survive, so that we don't get cast out. It's a very primal thing. Imagine that you're in a village, and outside of that village, there are wolves that could hurt you or kill you, and other dangerous animals. And as long as you're within the walls of that village, you're protected. As a group, you are protected. And you do something that causes you to get cast out of that village. Now you're alone in the woods and vulnerable. There's a very primal fear that we have that if we get rejected by society, that ultimately we won't survive. But in our modern day world, we don't have to worry about getting cast out to the wolves. What it may mean, though, is that you might have less friends. You might make a few more enemies. Most of that is through the internet and online, opposed to having any physical danger, although some people have put themselves in physical danger in order to fight for something they believe in. But ultimately, good came from it. And entrepreneurs are willing to be alone. They really are willing to be cast out of society. And if they have to be, they don't want to be. That's obviously not the preferred outcome. But if it means creating something that's going to better the world and ultimately help people and ultimately better their own life, then they're willing to stand up for that. So when others think for you, they have their own interests in mind, and so you don't want to let them run your life. What does it really mean to be self-employed? What does that mean? So the dictionary definition is that you are working for oneself as a freelancer or the owner of a business rather than having an employer, right? That's the definition that most of us use in the context of your job. Now, what does it mean to have a self-employed mindset? Because we have talked a lot about the benefits of being self-employed in your job and having that type of work structure where you have more freedom, you have greater ability to increase your income much quicker, and so forth. But in today's episode, I wanted to go beyond just your job and talk more about how you can be self-employed in your life, in every other aspect of your life. So to have a self-employed mindset, you first, I guess, let's distinguish between having an employer and having a client in the job context, so that we can kind of relate that to outside of your job. So an employer tells you to show up for work. They tell you when to show up for work and how to do your work. They tell you how long to work for and what to do in your job. Here's your job. As long as you do it, you keep your job. A client asks you what results they want, and then they expect you to figure out how to achieve it. Now, obviously, I'm being very black and white here. There's plenty of gray area where there are employers that leave their employees more autonomy to figure out how to achieve a certain result and so forth. But the default is that the majority of the time, clients see you differently when you are self-employed, when you are a business partnering with them, than an employer sees you. They know they have less control over you, and they want to work with you to achieve a certain result, opposed to make sure that you do your job. A client sees you as an equal, as a true business partner, rather than a worker that is helping to feed their system for their company. So, outside of work, do you have any employers in your life? That's something you need to think about. Is it the news? Is it certain politicians? Is it public government experts that are telling you what to do at every turn? Or are you self-employed? That's something you need to reflect on and really think about. When you live as an entrepreneur, and I'm merging self-employment and entrepreneur as the same thing, by the way. Entrepreneurs aren't just people that show up on Shark Tank. If you're a freelancer running a service business, you're an entrepreneur. And in the context that I'm using, you're an entrepreneur in the way that you're living to outside of your job. So I'm interchangeably using self-employed entrepreneur as the same thing. So when somebody lives as an entrepreneur, here's some points that kind of summarize what kind of person they are when they are living in this way outside of just their job. Entrepreneurs, they are producers more than they are consumers. So they are always figuring out that next thing to create rather than the next thing to consume. So for example, you could spend all your time consuming the news, TV, binge watching various shows, just scrolling through social media posts endlessly and get distracted in that way. Or you can be producing something. That can be something as simple as a garden in your backyard, or a business or something related to your business. Anytime you are performing a service for somebody, you are producing. So you're a producer or you're a consumer. Another aspect of being an entrepreneur, living in that way, is that you don't hesitate to go against the majority, like we opened up this conversation with. You don't care what others think of you because you think for yourself. So that doesn't mean that you're selfish. Let me clarify that. It's the contrary. By definition, entrepreneurs are always finding new ways of bettering everyone else's lives through new products and services. And to keep being able to do that, they have to get paid for that so they can support their own family. So there's nothing selfish about wanting to get paid for that. They need to make sure they take care of their own life or they won't be able to serve you. Now, true entrepreneurs, they really do care more about the impact they have than about the money. Some, they just get caught up in trying to find the next money-making opportunity. But many, they care. What drives them is the impact they can have on people in the world through the things they invent. And whether that's a product or a service, of course, they enjoy more money that comes from that, and the freedom and the self-reliance that comes from more income from what they're producing. But what really drives them is that addiction to creation and being a producer, and they love being a producer. Next, you do your own research to make educated decisions. So you research both sides of something, and then you make an educated decision. You don't just take somebody else's word for it. You can include other people's opinions as part of your research, but only part of your research. You question everything, which means you're a true scientist. Entrepreneurs and those who are self-employed are true scientists, not the muddled down, sometimes modern version of science where you're not allowed to question what's being said. That's not science. The very definition of science has to do with presenting a theory, and then everyone else refutes that theory and puts it up to trial and questions it and is very skeptical against it. That skepticism is what allows that theory to evolve into something more and more accurate and better and closer to the truth. So anytime you see people getting criticized for questioning what is being said in the media or being said by government officials and anyone else, that's a huge problem, because that means that that's anti-science, to be questioning and being, or to not be questioning and not being allowed to have skepticism towards theories that are being presented or information that's being presented. Information is often just partial. Next, you're constantly developing your skills and knowledge. Entrepreneurs and people who are self-employed, they don't see it as, oh, I went to college, I got educated, I got my degree, and then I got my job. I don't need to keep getting educated. I now need to just do my job. Entrepreneurs, the self-employed, they're constantly learning new things and gaining new knowledge and developing new skills. That is how they keep increasing their income. That's how they keep increasing their freedom. That is somebody who is self-employed. Yeah, you can have a normal job as an employee, and if you're this type of person that keeps developing your skills and knowledge, you're likely to get promoted faster. And you do have a self-employed mindset if you're approaching your job with that kind of initiative. With that, those tend to be the people that become the leaders the quickest in a company. Again, when I talk about self-employment, I'm not criticizing those who want to be an employee. I'm grateful that there are people willing to be employees, because certain companies, they need to have employees who are 100% loyal to that company to grow and survive. I'm trying to build a company where most of my team members are independent contractors, and I want to see just how big I can build it on just that model. But I'm not against employees or employers having employees. I'm just trying to teach anyone to have the self-employment type mindset and entrepreneurial mindset. And those that have that attitude towards every aspect of their life, they have a hard time being an employee because of the restrictions it puts on them. And so it's almost inevitable that they end up leaving their job and going the independent contractor route and building their own business. But that doesn't mean that they can't be an employee and still have that mindset for the most part. Next, you're self-motivated, you're self-directed, your self-esteem is high because you are basing it off of yourself. You're not waiting for others to tell you that you're good enough or not. You're very self-aware, very self-aware. Those are all aspects of being self-employed type of person and an entrepreneur. You are writing the vision for your own life, and you're directing the execution of that. Of course, you get help from your crew, friends, families, mentors, and so forth all play a part in helping you execute on that vision. Just like if you're making a movie and you're the director, you can't do it without your crew. But you are the writer and director of your life. And you're the one that is coming up with the vision for how you want to live your life. And you're the one at the helm directing it all. You're not having somebody else direct that for you. Ultimately, your voice is the one in charge, not the other voices in your head. And you're aware when those other voices speak, and you know who they are, and you're able to make the final decision on stuff. When there's a true psychological concept that when you are making a decision and trying to make a decision on something, everyone that you see as an authority, their voice is in your head, and they start to speak up and they start to give their opinion. And then you'll obviously have that outside of your head as well. You'll have family, friends, people at work, colleagues, and even other people in the media and so forth giving their opinion. But somebody who is self-employed, they know where their voice is in all of that. And so they can take everyone else's opinion, they can listen to everyone's opinion, and ultimately they make the final decision. And their decision might be something contrary to everyone else's opinion, or it might take parts of everyone's opinion and then form something new. This is something that we're going to explore in a future episode, how to find your voice in your own head amongst all the other voices that are in there. No, that does not mean you're crazy. This is something that we all experience. And next time you're trying to mull over something and make a decision on something, take a moment to really think about, what voices are in my head? Is it my dad, my mom, my 5th grade teacher? Is it the president of the United States? Is it other politicians? Is it certain celebrities? Is it people from history that I admired? Now, you could see them as an authority because you respect them, or you can see them as an authority because you were afraid of them. Either way, their voice could have gotten in your head. So you may have voices in your head that are having a negative influence on you, that aren't giving you good advice. And so it's very important that you audit those voices so that you can then have set up a team of people where you're only giving certain permission for certain voices to give you advice in your own head. And then you do that in your own life as well. You make sure that outside of your head, you also are having a team of people that you can trust, that you respect their opinion on a certain area, and you are able to then get the right feedback from the right people on things. Like you don't want let's say you have your neighbor's voices in your head regarding math, but he's really bad at math. It's very easy for the wrong voices to get in your head in the wrong categories. And anyways, we'll explore that more in a future episode regarding how to clear up the voices in your head so that you can find your own voice. And so ultimately you can be in charge of the decisions you make in your life and truly be an entrepreneur in every way that you live and have that self-employed mindset where you're in charge. So, how do you become self-employed in every aspect of your life? If you're not already, you strive to become the kind of person that I described. And again, you must first audit who your employers are, who are the people. So besides the voices in your head, you must audit the employers that are in your life. Who are you letting tell you what to do right now? And you need to change their role. So rather than just going along with what they're saying, you need to start questioning them, whether it's a government leader, a parent, a teacher. Change their role to become more of a partner, somebody that is giving you feedback on something, but they're not just telling you what to do and you're just mindlessly going along with it. Then ask why you look up to them. Ask yourself why you look up to them and whether you have legitimate reasons to trust their advice. And if you want to continue getting their advice, then on a piece of paper, just write their new role as a guide or a mentor, not as your dictator, not as your employer, that even a guide, even a mentor, you can still question whatever they tell you to do, and you don't have to follow everything because they are not going to be perfectly right all the time. You still have to pay attention to your own intelligence and intuition. Like they may offer an opinion, but you still have the final say, even if it's somebody that you do respect and look up to and you take their advice for things. Because yes, overall, we want to save time and we can't be an expert in everything. So we have to designate some level of jurisdiction and trust to certain people to give us advice. And we can't go and then literally put in all the same work that they did to have the expertise they have to then make a decision. We have to we can't be an expert in everything, right? That's why we have experts that we look up to. But that doesn't mean that we don't still put to trial the experts in our life, that we don't still question them to an extent and try to seek some alternate opinions on things, and put in some effort to do our own research. We still have to do that, or we can be misled by either people that do want to hurt us, or just misled unintentionally by people who don't have good information and they think they do. And so they're giving you what they think is good advice, and then it's not actually good advice. It's just important that you're always keeping tabs on that you are remaining in control of your own mind, that you're not letting the media. It's very easy for the news and the media to get into our head and to hijack our thinking when we're just kind of mindlessly consuming everyone else's opinions, and they're all biased. It doesn't matter if a news outlet is saying that they're unbiased. They're completely biased, and they're telling stories in the way that they want to tell them based on their own political and ideological beliefs. And so you need to make sure that you are very careful with how you receive information and what sources you trust. And don't let others, hijack your mind. Basically, you are in control of your mind, and you're getting information from other people, but ultimately you're doing some of your own research, and you are weighing this versus that, and then you're making final decisions for yourself. And you're going off of the best information you possibly can. You can't get stuck doing research where you never end up making a decision because you get stuck over researching something. You have to find that balance of researching just enough to feel like you got enough good information, and then ultimately there's always going to be a gap between the information you have and making a decision that will have a guarantee of success. There'll always be some level of risk, and that's where your intuition becomes important. That's where you have to just pay attention to how you feel on something and go with that. But if you don't have a mind of your own and you've allowed too many other people to take control of it, you're also numb to your own intuition, and you're not able to pay attention to your own feelings on things. You're just acting out of fear that you're going to be cast out of the village, and acting out of fear for other reasons. So hopefully today's conversation was helpful to you in helping to define what it means to be self-employed in every aspect of your life. Just to kind of add some bonus perspective here on it as I close up, is that essentially you're the kind of person that you wake up in the morning and you get yourself started, and you're in control of your morning routine. You have a routine that you've decided for yourself that works for you. You are managing the people that you communicate with, that you socialize with. You're just in control of every aspect of your life, of your family life, of your own house, of your systems, of your own routine, of your income, of your relationships. That if there are toxic relationships in your life, you disconnect those relationships, you seek out good ones. You're closing your day with a lot of intention. You're living your life very purposely and on purpose and deliberately and intentionally. And you really are, you're managing your own mind and your emotions. So you are very aware of your emotions, and you know how to manage them and process them. You're very aware of your own thoughts, and you know how to manage and process those. And that's a whole nother category of self-employment that we can get into in a future episode as well. Just how to better manage your own mind, because all of that will impact your external life and your experience in your life. So seek to become more self-employed, even if that is not the type of job you have. And even if you are self-employed, there are people who are self-employed, but they don't have a lot of these qualities. And so they're really struggling. So either way, seek to really become an entrepreneur in the way that you live. You're always producing. You're always thinking of the next thing to create. You're always looking for opportunities to serve people. And you are an entrepreneur in the way that you are living. And summing up this episode, go back to bed, is the opposite of having a self-employment mindset. So when you are living in that way, we are constantly going back to bed, and you're constantly going back to your comfort zone, and you're constantly joining in the majority way of thinking. You're not willing to step outside of your comfort zone. You're not willing to stand out. Then you're not embracing that self-employment mindset. Those who are self-employed, those who are entrepreneurs, they don't just go back to bed. They stay up. They wake up. They wake up to an awareness of themselves. They wake up to an awareness of what's going on around them and their life. And they are remaining alert and in tune with what the next opportunity is to produce and create. With that said, be sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel, which is just my name, Chad Grevalese, or go to airlight.tv, where you can read blog post versions of these episodes, and you can learn more about self-employment. And or you can go to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, any of the other podcast apps, and you can subscribe to Go Back to Bed there. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in our next early morning conversation.